Hi, welcome back to our course, and we are working in another fabulous piece by Mauro Giuliani. This piece, especially because it's in C major, you can recognize easily several patterns that Giuliani also uses in his famous set of 120 arpeggio studies. That is the first part of his Opus 1. If you happen to have any problem in any of those measures, I recommend you to go to Giuliani's Opus 1, find out which arpeggio formula is the very same one that he's using, and because this piece in C major and so are the arpeggio studies, it is very easy for you to recognize which arpeggio pattern is the similar that is being used on this piece, and work that is arpeggio study as he writes in his Opus 1, and then go back to this piece. Somehow this piece even looks a little bit, sounds a little bit like a checkup if you have already studied well his 120 arpeggio studies. So it's one more piece that is about balancing the melody with the accompaniment. And here Giuliani uses one accompaniment that is a very popular one used in classical era, in guitar repertoire, also present in the romantic era, which is the basso di Alberti, or I believe in English you must call the Alberti bass. It's some patterns, plural in fact, to instead of just playing chords like that, you arpeggiate with rhythm. The most popular formula of Alberti bass is lower, higher, middle, higher, low, high, middle, high. But there are other possibilities, and this is one of them, especially when you're using triplets. So it's an Alberti bass, okay? So it's about balancing that with the melody. The melody during the first 20 measures are on the soprano, the higher voice, but then on the 21st measure on it goes to the bass. Then we have an interesting change of where the melody is, and the melody should always be highlighted. The harmony is quite simple. It's a C major piece which features a very few chords. It starts with the tonic, dominant, tonic, and it repeats tonic and dominant most of the piece. Some of other chords that are present here are the dominant of the dominant, D major. It appears on measure 5. Beware, on measure 5, the D major is shown as, I'm describing it from the bass up, F sharp, C, D, and D up, okay? Then on measure 11, we have once more the dominant of the dominant, but here it's presented differently. Beware, check out on the score, we have F sharp, A natural, D, and then on the next beat, F sharp, C natural, D. So it changes A or C, okay? Beware, avoid some misreading, okay? Other chord is present here. There is a subdominant on measure 10, and it's preceded by the dominant of the subdominant. So this B flat here is when the tonic becomes the dominant of the subdominant, and then it resolves to the subdominant. Later in the end, one can understand that the measure 29 is a tonic relative because it's A, C, E, and E. Okay, but we can also consider this C always as kind of a pedal of C major, and it's just changing the melody, but the harmony wouldn't be changed. It depends on how you listen, but it's fine whether you consider this section a whole C major with some dissonances, or if you consider the 29th measure as a A minor, which is a tonic relative, it will be the same function. It won't make a difference for us, okay? So, since we are discussing also this later section, I would like to talk a little bit about fingerings with you. There are two fingering choices that I made here that I'd like to share with you, understand why I chose them, and also give you suggestions if you didn't like what I chose. So, part of our growing and improvement with the classical guitar involves some self-knowledge. You happen to know with time which things work best for you. And fingerings have some individual things to be considered. Of course, it's not all the time, and very often we try to disguise as being a personal choice some fingering that we are just lazy and stubborn to try a different one. This happens with everyone, with me also. But if you can really explain and it makes sense, probably it's an okay personal fingering. This is what's happening here. So on measure 30, I have something to consider because I have smaller hands. It may not look so because even this guitar is a little bit smaller, okay? But even so, I have to be aware. And for me, it's so much easier playing this F on the bass with the finger number 2, so that I can later be with the F sharp here with finger 2. So I have the biggest, the highest, the longest finger farther. Then instead of having the longest finger down on the C and the 3 finger, which is not a very big one, here playing F sharp. For me it's trickier doing that. Okay, so for me, I prefer to do the F1, F here. I know it can be tricky, I know it's hard, but for me it's less harder than this. But I don't do any kind of gimmick or crazy with my hand. I also help with my elbow. If you just pay attention on your hand without the guitar, just by putting your elbow next to your body, the finger 2 will immediately be higher than finger 1. Okay? So when I have to play here, my elbow really touches the guitar. And if I could, probably my elbow would go even with past the guitar, so it would be even easier. So I help with the elbow, then when it's the F sharp, I'm back to the elbow position, the normal elbow position. The other option, so we are here playing F sharp. When you are playing the A on the bass, enjoy this opportunity to change the C4 finger 2, then the E on the bass, so you have to play the F, then you put the elbow on the opposite direction. You spread your wings, elbow up, and then it's easier with the elbow up to have finger 1 above finger 2. So spread your wings, elbow up, and then you have F easily played. Then it's time to play F sharp, elbow in natural position, and then you play the F sharp with finger 3, and you keep the 2 on the C. Then we have to change our right hand position. I didn't like the fingering also present in this edition, but if you like to, you can use it. I prefer to just make a simple change of alignment. So when I play the F, immediately I change the alignment on I, going to the 3rd string, and then C is played with the M, A, M, I, M. Then what's the next chord? Change of alignment once more. Finger I on the 4th string, and once more bass with the thumb. M, A, M, I, M. So the same pattern on the right hand. And this is why I prefer this. For me it's easier to memorize that I have a section with I am. Then I have a section with M, I, M, I, M. M, A, M, I, M. Sorry, M, A, M, I, M. Okay? Then, well, I'm already on the end, so the end is a cliche. It's a normal ending that it's used. You can start and end heroic, or you can make a small rallentando to make it softer. And you can put the rallentando in different positions. So you have to try out which emotions fit best what you want to communicate to your audience. So I prefer to have a heroic beginning, then a rallentando. Okay, each note a little bit slower than the next in a very progressive way. And you can start the rallentando before what I did, so you can or you can not do a rallentando at all and make it heroic throughout. Or you can make also an accelerando, which will be a much more heroic ending. So it depends which emotion you want to convey. For me it's a simple piece, that's why I prefer to make a rallentando, to make it end softer. But if you feel it's heroic or it ends heroic, do so. It's your choice. So, but let's go back to the beginning, because as I told before, this piece is about highlighting the melody above the accompaniment. And our first phrase, G, 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 especially because it's a repeated note, you have to play it stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay, repeated notes, always with a crescendo. So M and A much stronger than P and I. Okay, if it's harder for you to balance, I recommend you to go to Giuliani's 100 studies. Check which formulas are similar with what's happening on the right hand and work on the balance first on the arpeggio, then go back to the music, and it will be much easier. And it's pretty much the same technical challenge that you have until measure 20. On measure 19, beware of the phrasing. It's B, G, C, B, A, G, and then it ends on the G. So on this first chord, it's better if you highlight the G, because the melody tends to be okay, and you can either freeze your right hand in a position with the eye it's a little bit lower, and then it will dig the string more, and because it will push the string down more, it will sound stronger. Okay? Other option, you reach the 3 fingers at the same time, but you start with the eye finger higher. Then the eye finger will move longer, therefore more energy and sound is stronger. Work on which option works best for you, but the important thing is we have to. And then after this first chord with the G highlighted, very soft. Sorry, I forgot to take the F, and just playing the bass stronger, so move more the bass or dig deeper with the bass, then it sounds more. Okay? The next phrase, it's also the melody on the bass. So C, C, E, F, D, C, G, C, A, C, E, F, D, G, C, B, G, C. I'm sorry, I'm not used to tell note names in English, so I make mistakes sometimes, but you got it. This is where the melody is. And in the next section, also in the bass, but beware because we have dissonances. So, although Giuliani asks that all basses should be with sforzando, the dissonance should be a little bit more sforzando. So the G sharp, it's a very far note from C major. So then A, especially if you consider A minor, it's part of the chord, okay. E also, okay, it's part of the chord. The F, it can be a dissonance, but you can also understand that he's using a subdominant with 7th, but the F sharp for sure is a dissonance. So F sharp stronger. Okay? You can add more tension when you have these very tense notes, and we notice that the most tense ones are D sharp and F sharp. You can raise also the accompaniment. We talked that previously, so you also add energy on the accompaniment for you to create the illusion that the dissonance is sounding strong throughout. So you can. Okay, let's do once more. Exaggerate so you can understand better. And you can also create this illusion of tension changing color, especially if you go to the metallic also. I'm exaggerating. Of course, you don't need to do as exaggerated as I did now. On my live performance, I didn't do that exaggerated, but there are some options for you to choose how much metallic or strong, whatever you can do. Important thing is, remember, melodies must be highlighted, accompaniment a little bit softer, and if you have any trouble in any measure, check out which of Giuliani's arpeggios from his 120 arpeggio studies, Opus 1, you find the same formula, work on that formula, then go back to the piece. Have fun!